Well, good to start my broadcast with a bang. Hi, this is Yaffi Lvova, registered dietitian nutritionist with Baby Bloom Nutrition. And today I've decided to tackle the controversial topic of fed is best versus breast is best. And with the hashtags, because hashtags. So, my little guy is knocked out from a doctor's visit this morning, but as always, since this is live, I may have to go get him. I am here with my phone propped up against a nice bottle of Bartonura white wine because I have twin toddlers, and covered in spit up because I have an infant. So I'm joining you as I am live. So this is really controversial because people are really emotionally invested in how they feed their child. And as you should be, you want what's best for your child. And sometimes there are other factors that influence how we decide to feed our children. There are social factors, there are scientific factors, obviously, there are physical factors, religious factors. There's a lot going on, medical factors as well. And the choice on how we feed our children is not always our own. And I really want to stress that this conversation is going to be about doing what's best for your family and what's best for your child. Hey, Paula made it on time. Hey, it's kind of a running joke. So, and hi Delilah, thank you. I would like to share some of my personal experience. I'm a mother of twins. They're 3.5 years old. They were breastfed and formula fed. And so far with my little guy, who is 2.5 months old, he's completely breastfed. But when I had my twins, I really wanted to breastfeed. In fact, it took me 4 years to have them. And one of the big things that I thought I'd be missing out on when I thought I couldn't have children is breastfeeding. And it made me really sad to give them bottled formula. And it was encouraged at the hospital because of some weight issue that I don't even remember. If you talk to any mother of twins, the first 6 months is kind of a blur. So I can't even tell you what was going on that prompted me to give them formula. I know that it was encouraged. It had to do with their weight. And a number of months after that, we were able to go back to exclusive breastfeeding, which is what I had wanted. But my point is that we all come from different places and have different reasons to do what we do. And this is going to be a very positive conversation that hopefully is supportive of people on both sides of the issue. First, I want to say that Breast is Best came about first as a campaign because women needed support on their decision to breastfeed. There is a whole history to breastfeeding and whether it was encouraged or not. Obviously breastfeeding's been around since humans have been around. Formula feeding has been around. Some kind of alternative milk feeding has been around since about 2000 BCE. There's evidence. And up until about the 60s or 70s in the United States and Canada, it was really discouraged. There was a lot of pressure against breastfeeding. And a lot of the reasons were it's not healthy. Some people thought that it wasn't healthy. Or you might have bad energy. I heard of a woman in a very rural place who was advised by her religious leader to not breastfeed her child because she had bad energy and would pass that on to the child. And given their location, she didn't have access to formula and the child was starving. Fortunately, was found and helped by an organization that I support. But not healthy. Some people think that it's a sexual thing. They think that it's kind of disgusting that you are feeding a child from your own body. Think about other things that come from your body. That it's just something that's kind of gross. Some people associate it with being low class and poor. A lot of royal families in Europe were using wet nurses because it was too common to breastfeed, and that, of course, as it always does, extends to the public. They see what the royal family's doing and want to emulate that. A lot of women are convinced that they're not giving enough breast milk to their children, and I'm going to get into that. Sometimes it's true, sometimes it's not true. I do have another nap time nutrition that was done with Jenny Beaver, Dr. Jenny Beaver, IBCLC. Earlier on, it was one of my first nap time nutritions, and that's specifically on milk supply, and you should go check that out if that's your concern. There's also the idea that you should give others a chance to feed your child. And that was a big thing for me, that I was pressured to not exclusively breastfeed because, but your husband doesn't have a chance to feed the child. Okay, fine, but he's got a chance to he's got a chance to change diapers. Go ahead, change diapers. He's got a chance to rock the baby and to drive the baby around and to do other things. Feeding as the mother is really my thing. It really rubbed me the wrong way, and I don't want women to make decisions to feed or not to feed breast milk based on that. Also, in the 17th century, redheads were discouraged from breastfeeding because they're too hot-headed and could pass it on to their child through their breast milk. Think about that for a minute. I have a comment. I've heard women say they can't breastfeed if they're angry because it passes that energy on to the child and causes fussiness. Yeah, well, as I just said with redheads, you made that comment before I made that comment, which is funny. I was also told that I shouldn't cry as a new mother because it causes the breast milk to be different and it causes fussiness and sadness in the child. And that was really an awful thing to hear. I personally suffered from some postpartum depression, and to be told that I'm not allowed to cry, that was really painful and also not true. Crying does not change your breast milk. The breast is best conversation also came about because women in third world countries were being advised that their milk was not healthy because it wasn't specific for their infant. And that's where the term formula actually comes from. The name formula is because it's supposed to be a formula that's specific for your infant. When really, if you look at it, at the science, it's backwards. Your breast milk is formulated specifically for your infant. It changes temperature and it changes its composition based on what your child needs. But these women in some third world countries were told that evaporated milk with sugar added was better for their child than their breast milk. And of course, that does not contain any kind of beneficial nutrient profile. And the children suffered because of that. So now let's talk about fed is best. This was a reactionary movement because women felt shamed by breast is best. So while breast is best was supposed to support women who wanted to breastfeed and were finding obstacles against breastfeeding from social, etc., sources, the women who wanted to breastfeed and were unable to, for possibly, there are a lot of reasons that I'll go over, they felt shamed by the breast is best movement. I heard a woman who was buying formula at Target and some other woman said to her, breast is best. That's more than unfortunate. It's completely inappropriate. You don't know a woman's situation. You don't know why someone would give formula. And also, if you see someone bottle feeding, you don't know what's in the bottle. It might be pumped breast milk. I'm going to read now the fed is best. Okay, Daniel needs me. Give me a sec. Okay, joining the world now. So, where was I? Okay, the mission statement on fedisbest.org. The Fed is Best Foundation believes that babies should never go hungry and mothers should be supported in choosing clinically safe feeding options for their babies, whether breast milk, formula, or a combination of both. Fed is best. The organization advocates increased knowledge, supplementation after nursing, which is, yeah, say hi to Delilah. She's saying hi to you. Hi. Supplementation after nursing. So if you're going to be doing both, you give the breast first, and then you give a bottle. So if you have decreased milk production, that would help to increase, and they do get a lot of the benefits when you're doing a combination. And they advocate that if your child is inconsolable. They advocate increased weight checks to make sure in the first days of life that your child is gaining weight appropriately. Increased bilirubin checks. That's the marker for jaundice. Sometimes they just go based on the child's skin color, and that's not enough. They do need to be checking bilirubin a couple of times at the hospital to make sure that the liver is processing red blood cells adequately and that your child is not experiencing any kind of liver distress. Also, they advocate checking milk production manually by self-expressing and seeing if anything comes out. So So really, we're not dealing with two different ways of thinking. We're dealing with two movements that are trying to best support the decision of the mother in feeding her child and best support for the health of the child. So what you don't know, what's in the bottle? You don't know what's in the bottle when you see a woman bottle feeding. You don't know if she's babysitting. You don't know if that's her child at all. It could be formula. It could be breast milk. Reasons for formula feeding. I know someone who is into extended breastfeeding for her toddler and is giving her infant a bottle of formula. Why? Because the infant is a foster baby. She's actually not allowed to breastfeed. So in a foster or adoption case, I do know of someone secondhand who used a lot of medication to induce lactation for an adopted child. It's a wonderful opportunity. It's very extreme. I'm sure it's very expensive and it's very difficult on the body, so it's not a logical decision for everyone. If someone has a low milk supply, if someone is on certain medications that would come through the breast milk and be bad for the baby. Other health issues, multiple gestation. I do know of a woman who exclusively breastfed triplets, but it's not always possible. Multiple food intolerances. If you have multiple food intolerances, I can work with you. I do that, but sometimes it gets excessive. Sometimes when you need to eliminate so many foods, it really takes a toll on your own personal health. And based on who you are and what your abilities are and where your mind is, this huge one with that, where your mind is, you may opt for formula, and that's something to be supported by the healthcare professional. I know someone who wanted to breastfeed but had to stay in the hospital when her baby left in order to have a mastectomy. People may have stopped breastfeeding for lack of social support, or there may be physical obstacles. I do have another naptime nutrition on lip and tongue tie, and that can really interfere with the breastfeeding relationship. And while it can be fixed, maybe it's not caught in time. An ideal situation is to be giving your baby donor milk, but right now the cost of donor milk is $4.45 per ounce. This is used in hospitals. It's covered by insurance, but if you are someone who is just trying to feed your own child at home, it's a very big cost, and it's not reasonable for your average mother. So I just wanted to really bring this up and say, we as healthcare professionals and as mothers need to support each other emotionally. And you don't know the decisions and the trials that someone's been through on a decision on how to feed their child. And if they're feeding from a breast or from a bottle, we need to support each other, and we need to work in the best interest of the health of the child. So please comment with your own experiences, with your comments, with your questions, and join me next week where I'm going to be discussing infant reflux, why it happens, how medications work, and if medications should work for you or if there's something else to do. Oh, this little guy's hungry. So join me at babybloomnutrition.com and on Pinterest and on Instagram, and I will see you next week for Naptime Nutrition at 1 p.m. Thanks for the thumbs up. At 1 p.m. Arizona, 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 9 a.m. Wednesday morning in New Zealand.